Hello, I'm Chuck Gold, and welcome to the Delaware Valley Original Music Showcase. Our mission is simple. It's a three-step process. Listen, experience, and pass on local original music. We can deliver on our mission at one time, but we need your help to get the word out. Tonight's guest is from Westchester and is an original songwriter in the folk category. Here is Stephanie Phillips on the Delaware Valley Original Music Showcase.
You told me that you're not supposed to love me. And even though some time has passed, you're still unsure of what will last. And you don't want to leave me in the crossfire. You said sometimes you wish I didn't love you. That even though you know my heart, you're still afraid of what could start if sudden changes leave me in the crossfire. But we are meant to take this road together now, and I hope you know that even if you've lost some trust, I have enough hope. I'm supposed to be the one to hold you, to make the bad dreams go away, to make you know that I will stay. Promise not to leave you crossfire. I told you that the past just doesn't matter. And even though the scars are there, we won't allow the love we share to be forsaken in someone else's crossfire. Cause we are meant to take this road together now, and I hope you know that even if you've lost some trust, I have enough hope. So give me your heart and I will take it, and promise you now that I won't break it. So tell me your dreams and let me hold them, and then we can watch our lives unfold them. I told you that no matter what has happened, that I will take the cross you bear to show you just how much I care, and prove that I won't leave you in the crossfire. Cause we are meant to take this road together now, and I hope you know that even if you've lost some trust, I have enough hope. And even when we're old and tired, we'll never leave each other. We'll never leave each other in the crossfire. So, well, I started guitar lessons at age 9, and I started writing. I think I wrote my first song at age 9 as well. It was terrible, but I was 9. But I started performing really early. I sang at the Waterloo Folk Festival in Iowa. I want to say I was 11 at the time, and I did a couple Bob Dylan songs. Actually, I did Simon and Garfunkel and a Bob Dylan song, and that was probably 1,000 people. I won a local town talent show, also in Iowa. I think I was about 12 then. That was Iowa. So before we moved, maybe I was 11. I don't know, but young. And then I just started writing I think the writing really started taking off in high school, and then by the time I got to college, I was writing a lot, and I performed at about age, I don't know, 19 or something. I started performing in New York City. My father lived in New York City the whole time I was growing up. And so, I was familiar with New York. And then I went to school at Sarah Lawrence. And so in the summers and even during the school year, like on a weekend, I would grab my friends and we'd jump on Metro North train and we'd travel to New York City and I would sing. I don't know if it's still like this, but in the city, it was always like you had to bring your own audience. And so if you couldn't meet the club owner basically said to you, you have to bring in X number of people. And so I was always schlepping like a whole group of people in from Westchester, New York, Bronxville, New York, where Sarah Lawrence was, to the city. I mean, I did that a lot. I sang all over New York City for 4 years, for the 4 or 5 years that I was commuting, and then again, or continuing that after I moved to the city. So I moved to the city right after I graduated.
They clear cut the trees around Greystone, it's nothing at all like it used to be.
I actually got into the music business on the other side because I got a job with ICM as an assistant agent coming out of college. Oh. So I was on both sides of the industry, and actually it was a bit difficult because I felt like I was kind of hoping in the back of my mind that working for ICM would help me with my own music, but it was completely the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. Because as an assistant agent, it was a conflict of interest for me to try to work my own music while I was, helping other artists. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, luckily I was in the adult contemporary department, and most of those people were not musicians, but rather comedians. So my boss and I worked with, Richard Lewis and Dana Carvey and Dennis Miller, and the at the time Saturday Night Live guys. But we also did Air Supply and REO Speedwagon. But essentially, I think my plan of kind of working my way into the industry from the back door was completely worthless. I mean, it was terrible because promoters didn't want to hear from me as an artist. They only wanted to hear from me as an agent. Mm-hmm. I did get a break in 1993. I opened and I don't remember even how that came about. I was no longer at ICM at the time, but I think I knew somebody who knew somebody. It's just usually how those things go. Mm-hmm. And I ended up opening for Emmylou Harris in the Berkshires, which was cool. That was cool. And that really, I think I was still continuing that hope that I might be discovered. Mm-hmm. And I think I thought that might be the big break. And it wasn't. And so, I continued to play in New York City. And then my then serious boyfriend and I moved from New York to Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is where I live now and have for past 25 years. And I sang at all the festivals. Westchester has a lot of festivals, and there's always music. There's always live music.
It's gravel and paving and house after house. The place where we married is just a memory. They put up a stoplight at Greystone, it's nothing at all like it was before. They widened the lanes for the traffic to go. The place where we married just isn't there anymore.
If and when I enter songwriting contests, which I have done multiple times, including a couple this past year, it's almost always in the singer-songwriter category, mm-hmm. which is nice that there's that category, because for a long time that category didn't exist. It was really folk. Mm-hmm. But I have always called my stuff progressive folk. And that was like, it's funny because I named it progressive folk back when I was in college. Mm-hmm. And that was before the word progressive as a capital P in politics even was a thing. Mm-hmm. So I am actually little p and big P in my politics and in my music. So yeah, but it's singer-songwriter, ballad, I don't know. Those are some other terms.
How do the changes affect who we are? Where do we go in the meantime? What would we do if we could all see that far? Maybe we'd ask for a lifeline.
So I think I probably speak for most songwriters in that agony and grief and sorrow and heartbreak are probably our leading inspirations. My friends used to tease me when I was in college that I never had any happy songs. And I think to this day, it's pretty much still true, although I have a few. One of the one that I just sang for you, I think is kind of a happy when you wear the balance. But for the most part, I think sadness is a strong inspiration. This latest go round with what we're experiencing with the pandemic is something that the song that I sang called Lifeline is, really about change. It's about local change. It's about national change, about global change. And I think that things that happen on a large level, national or global, affect me quite strongly a lot of times. Like I wrote a song about the gun issue. It was written right after Parkland, but it was mostly in response to just the whole slew of mass killings from schools to churches to, you name it. So yeah, I would say that for the most part, I am inspired by events that happen around me, both personal and larger than me.
They're building a wall at the border, It's nothing at all like it used to be. It's tall and unyielding for mile after mile. Give me your tire, it's just a memory.
Well, it's called What Have I Lost? I did write a little explanation, or kind of a very short summary of it for CD Baby, and I think I called it a musical journey of Stephanie's children growing up, a divorce, and a heartbreak, and kind of coming out of that. So I said it better on the album, but it's something to that effect. It's really kind of I think the best way to say it is it's a journey for the last 7 years of what's happened to me, and on both on a personal level and on a at least national level, if not global, and just the changes that have happened. I mean, there's been a lot that's happened in 7 years, and I've written a lot of music, so I kind of had to figure out a way to put those songs together that made some sense to the listener, and I hope it does. They're not in a chronological order on the album, but I think they make sense musically.
They're caging the kids at the border, It's nothing at all like it was before. With the choice to be ripped from their mothers or go, this place that they die for just isn't here anymore.
First album was self-produced. My second album was with Wire Road Records in Missouri. My third one was True to My Soul, and I did that one myself, and then this one was self-produced. And I don't know that there's any real stark difference other than the fact that the Wire Road Records release, I had to buy 1,000 copies of that. So it was a huge investment, both in money and in space in my closet upstairs. But with regard to, I guess the biggest thing is that, when you have a record company backing you, especially one that has some sort of national appearance, people know what it is. I mean, Wire Road Records, nobody's ever heard of, as far as I know. So that didn't really change anything. But I think if you're an independent artist and you suddenly get, signed by a major record label, the challenges are different for sure, because you have the backing of a major label, but at the same time you have to answer to their contract and their requirements. And I think as a self-produced independent musician, we get to be whatever we want to be and whoever we want to be, and we are free to not have to worry about the requirements that are, from what I understand, pretty stringent, especially on the major labels. So, and I think with the advent of social media and platforms like CD Baby, that just happens to be my digital distribution platform, but of course there are many. I think that the opportunities for independent musicians are really incredible now, and I actually think that really it's probably better to be independent than it is to be tied to a label at this point. But that's just my take.
How do the changes affect who we are? Where do we go in the meantime? What would we do if we could all see that far? Maybe we'd ask for a lifeline.
I think my biggest piece of advice would be to learn the digital programs, the mastery programs that will help you advance your music so that you don't have to worry about signing with a record label or having a bunch of studio musicians. I mean, when I graduated from college, I had a band and I worked with, band for, I don't know, maybe a year or two. They were young. They were younger than I was. I was just out of college. They were still kind of in college, or I think one of them might have even still been in high school. And we didn't, and we had to find studio space, and we had to book studio time, and it was not convenient and kind of awkward. And I think now with the kind of electronic platforms that we have, and Logic and GarageBand and all these other things that I don't know how to use for the most part, I would say if you're just starting out, learn those, because then you can do all of this on your own. My daughter is a musician. She's in college at UArts, and she's in the MBET program, which is the Music Business Entrepreneurship Technology program. And she just released her first single on her own with cover art by my other daughter, who's a graphic designer, and it's fantastic. I mean, now she's a keyboardist, so it's a little bit different. The guitar, she has a lot more available to her with being a pianist and working on a keyboard as opposed to a guitarist. I think that's just that she just has more available in terms of what she can do to add to her sound. But still, the fact that she's able to do all this on her own, I never would have been able to do that at 19 years old. I mean, it's incredible to me. So I think you learn your craft is really what it comes down to. Learn your craft, not just the instrument that you're playing, but how do you get your music in whatever form you're producing it in to be heard by millions of people. And that's the key, both learning social media and learning the digital programs that will allow you to record and produce the kind of music that you want people to hear.
Into the future to find a new path, something that ties us together again. Time may be all that we're needing for that, but the only real weapon is love in the end.
What Have I Lost was specifically about my divorce. And the divorce was in 2015. And it was obviously a life-changing event. And so I think that the album, using that as the album title, which ironically is the last song on the album. In fact, my ex-husband, who's a friend of mine, said, "Why is your title song the last song on the album? I've never seen that before." And I was like, I don't know. It just made sense musically to have it be the last one. I think that it kind of encompasses a lot of feelings that I had, both happy and sad, with regard to the divorce and with regard to everything that's happened since the divorce. There was definitely some happy times post-divorce. There were nearly 3 years of a relationship that I thought was going to be for the rest of my life, which didn't turn out to be, which ended up with some pretty significant heartbreak. And so I think that the titling that, using that song as a title, kind of encompassed a lot of those feelings, both right after the divorce and then after the other relationship failed. Well, my musical influences, and I don't know if you can tell this by just hearing those 4 songs, but Dan Fogelberg, do you know any of these people? Cat Stevens,
I know Cat
James
Stevens.
Taylor.
Okay, I know them.
Yeah.
I know the last two.
Chicago is another influence.
Yeah.
And then later on, influences have been Indigo Girls. I don't know. Are you familiar with Cheryl Wheeler?
I don't think so. I might know.
Okay, so look up Cheryl. Do yourself a favor and look up Cheryl Wheeler.
Okay.
She's an East Coast musician based in Maryland. She plays up and down the East Coast. I don't know if she goes elsewhere, but she's a very, very gifted musician, both in her lyrics and her music, as well as being a hilarious performer. Like, she has the most incredible stage presence. So I think just growing up, my parents were kind of post hippies, sort of. Like, they weren't hippies, but they were kind of right past that era. So they would listen to, like, my dad listened to Donovan. My mom kind of liked more like rock music. But Billy Joel and Dan Fogelberg and Cat Stevens and James Taylor were definitely played in the house frequently. Okay. So that's kind of how that's my growing up music.
We're fighting a war with contagion, you know. It's nothing at all like it used to be. It's 6 feet of distance to keep us apart. The world that we're used to is just a memory. They're forcing the closure of borders, you know. It's nothing at all like it was before. 'Cause human connection is needed to grow. But hands holding hands just isn't here anymore. How do the changes affect who we are? And where do we go in the meantime? What would we do if we could all see that far? Maybe we'd ask. Maybe we'd ask for a lifeline.
Thanks for watching, and remember, listen, experience, and pass on local original music in the Delaware Valley. Here, one more time, here is Stephanie Phillips on the Delaware Valley Original Music Showcase.
It took me a while to get out of my head, to relax and let go and believe. And I'm still not sure what you did or you said, but the universe somehow conceived you. You are the balance I needed to find, the harmony and calibration. Yours is the voice that I hear in my mind when I'm searching for focused creation. It took me a while to get back on my feet, to be sure that my trust wasn't broken. I don't know if you noticed that night on the street, all the words that I couldn't have spoken. You are the balance I needed to find, harmony and calibration. Yours is the voice that I hear in my mind when I'm searching for focused creation. So how did you know all the things that I needed to hear? And how long ago was the planning for you to hear? It took me a while to just loosen my grip, to relax and let your presence ground me. And when did my heartbeat begin to skip every time that your arms are around me? You are the balance I needed to find, the harmony and calibration. Yours is the voice that I hear in my mind when I'm searching for focused creation. You are the balance I needed to find, the symmetry and moderation. I don't believe that I could have designed a more interesting collaboration. What have I lost? The empty space in the bed doesn't begin to answer the question. What have I lost? The empty space in my head, devoid of the usual self-expression. So how should I count all the things that are gone? And how do I try to begin to move on? With a voice in my mind, what do I say? The one who keeps asking me if I'm okay. What have I lost? The comfort of your embrace isn't the only thing I miss. What have I lost? Security in this place, or maybe it's only my reminiscence. So how should I count all the things that are gone? And how do I try to begin to move on? To the voice in my mind, what do I say? The one who keeps asking me if I'm okay. Am I okay? It depends on when and how you ask. It depends on the way the day has passed. And the answer's never quite the same. 'Cause the question can't be who's to blame. What have I lost? Uneasiness in my life doesn't begin to answer the question. What have I lost? The label of being your wife and all of the needless self-impression. So how should I count all the things I don't know, the ones I can't see that are making me grow? With a voice in my mind, what do I say? Maybe it's time to answer I'm